All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time we're taking on a book that's been making waves, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos by Jordan Peterson.
Oh, this one's a doozy.
Yeah, it's definitely provoked some strong reactions. We're going to be working with excerpts from the book itself, so we're really getting into Peterson's own words and the way he lays out his arguments.
He was not exactly known for shying away from controversy.
That's for sure. But beyond the headlines and sound bites, there's a lot to unpack here, a lot of interesting ideas about psychology, philosophy, mythology, you name it.
Really a blend of personal anecdotes and kind of grand theories about the world.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we're gonna try to get past the hype and see what we can take away from Peterson's 12 rules, for life. You ready for this one?
Let's dive in.
Okay, so right off the bat, Peterson kind of throws down the gauntlet. He talks about this fundamental human ambivalence we have about rules.
Yeah, like we crave freedom, but we also know we kind of need some structure to keep things from falling apart.
Right. It's like we're constantly trying to find that balance between chaos and order, between doing our own thing and playing by the rules.
That tension, that's really at the heart of Peterson's whole philosophy, I think.
Yeah, and he argues that life itself is this constant negotiation between these two forces. Order, on the one hand, represents the known, the structured, the familiar.
Right, the stuff that makes us feel safe and secure.
Yeah, but then you've got chaos, which symbolizes the unknown, the unpredictable, the stuff that can really shake things up.
The stuff that that can be exciting, but also kind of terrifying.
Exactly. And Peterson's saying it's through this interplay between order and chaos that we grow, that we learn, that we ultimately, discover what it means to be human.
Yeah, like you can't have one without the other. You need both to really thrive.
Okay, so that's kind of the big picture stuff. But to really understand where Peterson's coming from, I think it's helpful to know a bit about his background, the experiences that shaped his worldview.
Well, he's spoken a lot about studying totalitarian regimes, the horrors of the 20th century, especially the Holocaust.
Yeah, his own family had connections to that, didn't they?
He did, and those experiences really solidified his belief that evil isn't just some, abstract idea, but a very real and terrifying force in the world.
And that understanding of evil's potential seems to be a big part of why he put so much emphasis on personal responsibility, on the importance of individual action in combating chaos and malevolence.
Absolutely. He sees it as almost a moral imperative, to stand up against the darkness, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
Okay, so with that foundation laid, let's turn to the first rule, which is probably the one you've heard, even if you haven't read the book. Stand up straight with your shoulders back.
On the surface, it sounds kind of, I don't know, superficial, like something your mom would tell you.
Yeah, but then Peterson goes on to talk about lobsters.
Lobsters.
Lobsters. And this is where things get really interesting. So Peterson explains how lobsters, they have this hierarchical social structure based on dominance, just like many other animals.
Right, the pecking order.
Yeah, but what's fascinating is that this hierarchy is actually linked to serotonin levels in their nervous systems.
So, like, their brain chemistry is affected by their social standing.
It seems that way. Dominant lobsters have higher serotonin levels, which leads to more confident posture, greater access to resources, and overall a better quality of life.
And the submissive lobsters, they don't fare as well.
No. They tend to have lower serotonin, a more hunched posture, and a more challenging existence. They get pushed around.
Okay, so I'm seeing where this is going. He's making a connection between lobster behavior and human behavior.
Exactly. Peterson suggests that we humans have inherited similar neurochemical mechanisms that link posture to dominance and well-being.
So, like, standing up straight isn't just about looking good. It's about projecting confidence, claiming your space in the world.
And even influencing your own brain chemistry in a positive way.
That's pretty wild. So you're saying if I slouch all day, I'm actually messing with my own serotonin levels?
It's not quite that simple, but Peterson argues that there's definitely a connection. He says that when we adopt a more upright posture, we literally and figuratively stand up to the challenges of life.
It's like we're telling our brains, "Hey, I'm ready for this."
Exactly. And conversely, if we're constantly slouching, shrinking back,
Yeah.
it can send a signal of submissiveness, not just to others, but to ourselves as well.
Like we're giving in to the weight of the world.
Yeah, and that can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you act defeated, you're more likely to be treated that way, and that just reinforces those feelings of inadequacy and hopelessness.
Okay, so standing up straight is about more than just appearances. Um, it's about cultivating a kind of inner strength and resilience.
Exactly. It's about embodying a spirit of courage and self-respect, about about refusing to be a victim.
And this idea of confronting challenges head on, it leads to Peterson's discussion of negative feedback loops, right?
Yeah, he talks about how these loops can be really destructive, especially in cases of addiction.
Makes sense. Like you make one bad choice, it erodes your self-esteem, which then makes you more likely to make another bad choice.
And then another and another. It's like a downward spiral that can be really hard to break free from.
Yeah, you get caught in this cycle of self-sabotage.
And Peterson argues that this same dynamic can play out in social situations as well, particularly in cases of bullying.
Right, because being bullied can have a lasting impact on your confidence, your self-image, even your body language.
You can literally train your brain to anticipate and react to threats in a submissive way, even years after the bullying has stopped.
So it's uh like your body is constantly bracing for the next attack, even if there's no real danger present.
It's really sad to think about. But it also highlights the importance of addressing bullying and providing support for those who have been victimized, to help them break out of that cycle.
Absolutely. But Peterson also suggests that even if you've been through something like that, you can still work to change those ingrained patterns. You can learn to confront your fears and stand up for yourself.
Which brings us back to that first rule. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. It's not just about physical posture. It's about adopting this metaphorical stance of strength and resilience, right?
Right, like you're taking a stand against the forces that are trying to hold you down.
He calls it standing up metaphysically. It's a powerful image.
It is. And it really gets to the heart of what Peterson is trying to do with this book. He's trying to offer a roadmap for living a meaningful life, a life that's not just about surviving, but about thriving.
About taking control of your destiny, about becoming the best version of yourself.
And that's a message that I think a lot of people are really hungry for.
Thank you for listening to Rambling Dan Rowe's Deep Dive Book Reviews. Please help support our channel by clicking the like and subscribe button. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're picking up where we left off, exploring Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life.
Last time we were talking about that idea of the Garden of Eden as this kind of metaphor for the human condition, and how Peterson uses those ancient stories to get at some pretty deep truths about ourselves and the world.
He's a master of that, weaving those narratives into his arguments, and he goes on to connect this whole idea of order and chaos to the concept of good and evil.
Okay, yeah, that's a big one. I'm curious to hear how he defines those terms because it seems like everybody's got their own take on it. Well, he argues that good and evil they aren't just abstract concepts. They're lived experiences. They're the choices we make every day, the actions we take.
So it's not about some cosmic battle between angels and demons. It's about the very real consequences of our actions in here and now.
Exactly. He sees good as this force that brings order out of chaos, that creates beauty and meaning. And evil, well, that's the force that destroys, that spreads suffering and despair.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we know what's good and what's evil? I mean, isn't it all relative? Like one person's good could be another person's evil, depending on their culture, their beliefs, all that.
He does acknowledge that there's a lot of gray area, moral dilemmas that can be really complex, but he also believes that there are some fundamental truths that kind of transcend cultural differences, historical periods, all of that.
You're like, what? Give me an example.
Yeah. Well, he talks about the golden rule, the idea of treating others as you would want to be treated. He sees that as a universal principle that's found in various forms across many different cultures and religions.
So it's about empathy, right? About recognizing the shared humanity in all of us, despite our differences.
Exactly. And he also really emphasizes the importance of taking responsibility for our actions. That's a recurring theme throughout the book, this idea of owning your choices, both the good and the bad.
Right. It's not enough to just have good intentions. We have to actually do the work, make the choices that align with our values, even when it's tough.
And speaking of making tough choices, that kind of leads us to the next rule. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping.
Okay, now that's an interesting one. What does he mean by that? It sounds kind of counterintuitive,
Yeah.
like, aren't we all responsible for helping ourselves?
He's essentially saying that we should treat ourselves with the same care and compassion that we would extend to someone we love, someone we want to help.
It's like we're often much harder on ourselves than we would ever be on anyone else.
Yeah.
We focus on our flaws, our failures. We beat ourselves up for our mistakes.
And Peterson argues that that kind of negative self-talk, it's not only unproductive, it's actually harmful.
Because it undermines our self-esteem, our motivation,
Yeah.
our ability to actually make positive changes in our lives.
Exactly. He suggests that we need to cultivate a more supportive and nurturing inner voice, one that encourages us to grow and learn from our experiences rather than just constantly putting us down.
So it's like being our own best friend, our own cheerleader, but also about holding ourselves accountable. Because sometimes we need that tough love, that push to do better.
Right. It's about finding that balance between self-compassion and self-discipline.
And it's interesting how this kind of ties back to his earlier point about personal responsibility. If we're not taking care of ourselves, both physically and mentally, we're not going to be in a very good position to help anyone else.
Right. It's like putting on your own oxygen mask first before assisting others on an airplane. You have to attend to your own needs in order to be of service to others.
That's a great analogy. Okay, so this rule is about self-care, but not in a selfish way, right? It's about recognizing that taking care of ourselves is essential for our own well-being and for our ability to actually contribute to the world in a positive way.
Exactly. No, this whole idea of self-improvement, it leads nicely into the next rule, which is make friends with people who want the best for you.
Okay, that one seems pretty straightforward. Surround yourself with good people who support you and want you to succeed. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, on the surface it sounds pretty obvious, but Peterson goes a little deeper than that. He's not just talking about being around people who are fun to be around or who make you feel good in the moment. He's talking about seeking out relationships with people who challenge you to be better, who support your goals and aspirations.
So it's about choosing your friends wisely. It's about being intentional about the kind of people you allow into your inner circle.
He argues that the people we spend time with, they have a profound impact on our lives. They can either lift us up or drag us down.
And that we have a responsibility to ourselves to choose relationships that nurture our growth and help us become the best versions of ourselves.
Right. And sometimes that means letting go of relationships that are no longer serving us, even if it's painful or difficult.
Yeah, that can be really tough. But Peterson reminds us that we have a limited amount of time and energy, and we need to invest those resources wisely, both in ourselves and in the people we surround ourselves with.
It's like we're all gardeners in a way, tending to the garden of our own lives, and we need to be careful about what seeds we plant and what weeds we pull.
That's a beautiful analogy. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're choosing our friends wisely. We're taking care of our own personal gardens. What's next?
Well, speaking of nurturing growth, that leads us to the next rule, which is compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today.
Oh, the comparison game. That's a tough one. It's so easy to get caught up in that, especially, in today's world with social media where everyone's always presenting their best selves, their highlight reel.
Exactly. And Peterson argues that kind of comparison, it's not only unhelpful, it's actually destructive.
Because you're not comparing apples to apples, right? You're comparing your whole life with all its complexities and challenges to someone else's, carefully curated public image.
Right. It's like comparing your behind the scenes footage to someone else's finished film.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
So what's the alternative? How do we escape that trap?
He suggests that a much more productive approach is to focus on your own progress, to compare yourself to who you were yesterday, last week, last year.
So it's about celebrating your own growth and achievements, no matter how small they may seem to someone else.
Exactly. He emphasizes the importance of setting realistic goals and focusing on making incremental improvements over time.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about striving to be better than you were before.
And he also points out that this kind of self-comparison can help you develop gratitude for how far you've come.
That's so true. It's like we need to take the time to appreciate our own journey, even if it's, even if it's not always a straight line to success.
Right. It's about recognizing that growth is a process, and every step forward, no matter how small, is worth celebrating.
Okay, that's a great perspective. So we're focusing on our own growth, we're being kind to ourselves, we're surrounding ourselves with good people.
Yeah.
What else does Peterson have for us?
Well, the next rule is it's one that tends to get a lot of attention, and it's often taken out of context. It's do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them.
Okay, I can see how that one could be controversial. It sounds a little harsh on the surface.
It does, but it's important to understand the context. Peterson is talking about the importance of setting boundaries and holding children accountable for their behavior. He's not advocating for harsh punishments or authoritarian parenting.
But he is saying that parents have a responsibility to guide their children toward becoming responsible and well-adjusted adults.
Right. And part of that involves teaching them right from wrong, helping them to develop empathy and self-control, and letting them experience the natural consequences of their actions.
He makes the point that if a child's behavior is consistently making you dislike them,
Yeah.
it's probably making other people dislike them too.
And that's not doing the child any favors in the long run. It's setting them up for social isolation, difficulty forming healthy relationships.
So it's really about helping children to develop the social and emotional skills they need to thrive in the world.
He also talks about the importance of parents modeling good behavior. Children, they learn by watching the adults in their lives.
So if you're constantly yelling, being disrespectful, engaging in other behaviors that you don't want your children to emulate, you're not setting a very good example.
Right. Actions speak louder than words, and he reminds us that parenting is hard work. It's challenging and often frustrating, but it's also one of the most important and rewarding things we can do in our lives.
Absolutely. It's a huge responsibility shaping these young lives.
Thank you for listening to Rambling Dan Rowe's Deep Dive Book Reviews. Please help support our channel by clicking the like and subscribe button. Thank you.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. It's been a really thought-provoking journey.
It has. We've covered so much ground, from the importance of posture and taking responsibility for our lives to the power of meaning making and the complexities of good and evil.
Peterson really challenges us to think deeply about the human condition, about our place in the world, and the choices we made every day.
He does. He doesn't shy away from the difficult questions. He tackles issues like suffering, death, the search for meaning. He goes right at them.
One of the things that's really struck me throughout this whole exploration is Peterson's emphasis on the importance of listening to others. It's something he returns to again and again in different ways.
You're right, and that leads us to his next rule, which is assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't.
It sounds simple enough, but I think in practice it can be quite challenging. We all have our own biases, our preconceived notions. It's easy to dismiss people who disagree with us or who come from different backgrounds.
Peterson argues that kind of closed-mindedness, it's not only disrespectful to others, but it also limits our own growth and understanding.
So it's about being open to learning from anyone, regardless of their background, their beliefs, their experiences.
He encourages us to approach conversations with a spirit of humility and curiosity, recognizing that everyone has something valuable to offer.
Yeah. And that kind of openness is essential, not just for personal growth, but for building bridges between people, for creating more understanding and compassionate world.
Absolutely. Now, this idea of listening, it leads naturally to the next rule, which is about the importance of clear and precise communication. Be precise in your speech.
He's talked quite a bit about the power of language and how it shapes our thoughts and actions.
Yeah, he sees it as a tool, but also as a potential weapon, And here he's emphasizing the importance of using language carefully and intentionally. He points out that vague or imprecise language can lead to misunderstandings, conflicts, even violence.
So it's not just about saying what you mean, it's about saying it in a way that can be clearly understood by others.
Exactly. He encourages us to choose our words carefully, to define our terms, and to be willing to clarify our meaning when necessary.
And this applies to all forms of communication,
Hmm.
right? Not just spoken language, but written communication, body language, even our actions.
Yeah.
They all send a message.
It does. It's about being mindful of the messages we're sending, both intentionally and unintentionally. Okay, so now let's talk about one of the more controversial rules in the book. Do not bother children when they are skateboarding. This one really sparked a lot of debate when the book first came out.
I can see why. It sounds a little bit harsh on the surface, like what's he really getting at here?
Well, as we've discussed before, Peterson he's often using metaphors to convey these deeper meanings, right? And with this rule, he's talking about the importance of allowing children to take risks, to explore their limits, and to develop competence and resilience.
So he's using skateboarding as a metaphor
Yeah.
for the challenges that children need to face in order to grow and mature.
Exactly. It's about learning to fall down and get back up, to push past fear, to develop a sense of mastery over their environment.
And he argues that by overprotecting children, by shielding them from all risks and challenges, we actually do them a disservice.
Right, because we prevent them from developing the skills and the confidence they need to navigate the world, on their own.
He connects this to the archetype of the terrible mother, the overprotective parent who smothers her children with love and attention, but in doing so prevents them from becoming independent and self-reliant.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most loving thing we can do for our children is to give them the space to make their own mistakes, to learn from their own experiences, and to grow into strong and capable individuals.
And speaking of independence and finding your own way, that leads us to the final rule in the book, which is pet a cat when you encounter one on the street.
This one always makes me smile. It seems a little bit out of left field after all the serious discussions about meaning and responsibility and the human condition.
It does, but I think it's a brilliant way to end the book. It brings us back to a sense of simplicity, of joy, of connection with the natural world.
Peterson sees cats as representing this different way of being in the world, a kind of wildness and independence that we humans can learn from.
He admires their ability to be present in the moment, to enjoy simple pleasures, and to move through the world with this sense of grace and self-possession.
And I think there's a deeper message here too about the importance of paying attention to the small things, of finding those moments of beauty and connection in the everyday.
It's a reminder to slow down, to appreciate the world around us, and to find joy in the simple act of petting a cat.
And on that note, I think we'll wrap up our deep dive into 12 Rules for Life. It's a book that's full of wisdom, challenge, and inspiration. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend checking it out.
Absolutely. And who knows, you might even find yourself petting a few more cats along the way.